I was going to make some farewell remarks at this point. I should start by saying that I'm a pilot, and Mike Rossi and I he got in my airplane, we were flying, and I said, you know, if this airplane goes down, Rossi, it tears a big hole in the program. I said, on the other hand, maybe they'll name a station after us. And he said, yeah, but it'll be an underground station. So I guess that works. Well, I did want to write some remarks out so I could time them so I could make sure that I didn't go on too long, which is I'm wont to do. But colleagues and friends, first of all, I want to thank everybody for the kind comments this morning. And Lynn, those were really wonderful. They're very much appreciated. 7 years ago this month, after serving on the board for a half year, I took over as chair, stepping into a leadership position for the nation's largest infrastructure program. It has been a truly extraordinary journey, exhilarating at times and frustrating at other times, and other times, and other times. In my letter of resignation to Governor Newsom recently, I outlined many of the things that we've accomplished over those years, so I'm not going to repeat those here. But I do want to make it clear that I believe that California needs this project, and that connecting our state with high-speed rail is essential to our economy, to our quality of life, and to our future, a future that's increasingly imperiled by climate change. Mainly, though, today, I just want to share what this job has meant to me. First, and probably foremost, it's given me the chance to meet thousands of interesting and wonderful people. From my dedicated colleagues on this board, from those working here at the authority and among its contractors, to the stakeholders, local officials, state and federal lawmakers, transportation leaders from across the nation and beyond. And of course, those whose only label is perhaps the most important, ordinary California citizens. There are some extraordinary leaders among us, especially among our mayors, like my friend, former mayor of Fresno, Ashley Swearingen, who may in fact be the best of the best. Many of these professional relationships will abide, but what I'll cherish even more are the new lifelong friendships that I take with me. Second, I've had a unique opportunity to get to know California in a way that never occurred in the decades that I've lived here. Up and down the state, I've spent days in Acton and Anaheim, Santa Clarita and San Jose, Gilroy and Hanford, Fresno and Fairmead. Like the first and last names on that list, there are many places I'd never heard of before I started this work. But what I found in each community is pride, beauty, and a sense of place. For some, they fear that high-speed rail poses a threat to their way of life, and we've tried to tread gently there. For others, they see this program as a welcome tool to revitalize their towns and brighten their future. Third, I've had the deep satisfaction of knowing that we've put people to work and provided training, opportunity, and hope for thousands of Californians. Often, as we face challenges or setbacks, I'd pull out a message that I got a few years ago from one of our many disabled American veteran business owners, Paul Cachadorian in Fresno. He told me that he'd hired a person from the Welfare to Work CalWorks program. The employee had performed beyond his expectations, gotten promotions, and Paul said that the man, who may have previously been homeless, had just bought the first house he'd ever owned. Paul ended his note by saying, "You're changing cities and you're changing lives." Finally, as I step down from this position, I want to acknowledge that I wouldn't be sitting here today but for two extraordinary people. Shortly after that February 2012 board meeting where I became chair, my late wife Jackie was diagnosed with cancer. We were living in Washington, D.C. at the time, and I was commuting from there for what was supposed to be a part-time job as a board member here. As you would expect, I told her immediately that I would resign so that I could be by her side continuously. But she grew adamant that I needed to keep doing this work, just as she courageously served out her tenure as Assistant Secretary of the Navy. She said it was important, and she insisted that I stay with it. She's in my heart always, but especially so today. Finally, I of course want to thank Governor Jerry Brown for placing his trust in me to lead this effort. Though he was not the first to envision a modern rail transportation system for the state, his unwavering commitment and political courage got this program off the ground. It's never been about a legacy. Some 40 years ago, I was standing in his office with a small group of people, and I still remember him saying that if the state was down to its last dime, we had to find a penny to invest in the future. He's always believed that. Last year, a few days after we announced publicly that the initial segment cost estimates were significantly higher, he stood before the legislature and reaffirmed his belief that we must go forward still because the cost of not doing so was even greater. As for me, I continue to believe that high-speed rail can transform California, sustain our growth, revitalize our cities, spawn new industries, and lift people into good middle-class jobs. It may be the most important work I've ever done, and I'm forever grateful to have had the opportunity to serve the people of California. Thank you, and good luck.